Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to our installment of Scott Selections here for Tuesday, October 12th. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened. So we're going to pick up a loss in baseball with the Giants team total over 2.5 runs at minus 120 on DraftKings. Line ended up shooting all the way upward, so we beat a huge line move, went from around minus 120 to around minus 150, and yet it did not matter. The Giants only scored one run and yet still managed to win the game. It was 1-0. The wind was blowing in like crazy, killed a bunch of fly balls, and we ended up picking up a loss. So unfortunate, but look for a bounce-back winner here on Tuesday. Before the play of the day, we'll be looking at college football because there is a midweek Sun Belt game finally between two very solid teams as App State travels to take on Louisiana. And for the play of the day, we look at team total. And the team totals have been pretty good to us over the last week or so, but we took overs on those, and now we're going to be taking an under as we like Louisiana team total under 26.5 points at minus 120 on DraftKings. Time recording of 2:50 a.m. Eastern Time. Cover reasons why I like the under in the spot. First of all, 26.5, very solid line just by shopping around. You can find 25.5 on BetMGM, but you can even find 24.5 on FanDuel. So you're saving 2 points with no questions asked just by shopping around. I'll pay the extra 5-10 cents a juice there for the free 2 points every time. But looking at App State's defense, this unit has been very solid so far this season, as App State has allowed less than 26 points in 4 of its first 5 games. The only exception was allowing 30 points to Marshall. However, Marshall did run a trick play, a fake reverse on the kickoff return, which resulted in a touchdown. So if you take out the special teams touchdown, App State's defense only gave up 23 points, and I do like how this unit has played. Faced off against Miami earlier this season, for example. I know Miami's not a great team, but it's still a Power 5 team, and it only gave up 25 points in that one. But even East Carolina, pretty solid offense, only gave up 19 there. This unit's pretty good, and I do think it'll fare pretty well against this Louisiana team, which has been a little bit underwhelming compared to preseason expectations offensively. But one other factor to mention for App State and why fading its opponent's team totals or taking the under on those has some value. App State is a team that loves to sit on the ball. App State ranks 10th in the nation in time of possession. This team loves to just pound the rock. It has multiple running backs with the likes of Noel. It also has Peoples. So it has 2 really good running backs, and I do think you're going to end up seeing this team really rely on it as it's averaging 4.8 yards per carry into this matchup, and I do think that will result in a ton of long drives that eat up a decent amount of clock, and I do think that it will result in less possessions for Louisiana offensively. But you want to look at the defense for Louisiana. This team has struggled against the run. Louisiana is allowing 171.2 rushing yards per game, so it really hasn't shown many signs of slowing down the run, and I do think that will play right into App State's hands as they should be able to sustain some 5-6 minute drives throughout this game. But looking at Louisiana's offense, this team has really not been that great up to this point. People are expecting a high-octane offense with Levy Lewis back behind center. However, looking at the results, that really has not been the case. Scored 18 against Texas, scored 27 against a Nicholls State, which is an FCS team, which is really not that impressive. Scored 49 against Ohio. Ohio stinks, but that's still an impressive showing. Scored 28 against Georgia Southern. That's okay. And only scored 20 points against South Alabama in its last game. And South Alabama, I feel like, showcased the blueprint that App State's going to use for this one, which is to really just control the time of possession. South Alabama had the ball for about 36 minutes, and I think App State should be around 33, 34 in this matchup. But these teams, of course, have faced off with each other a lot ever since App State ended up joining the Sun Belt. And Louisiana offensively has really not fared too well in this meeting historically, as Louisiana has scored less than 25 points in 8 of the first 9 meetings. So App State usually has a pretty good defensive game plan. I think it will once again in this one. But looking at the actual number here of 26.5, you immediately think to yourself, I hope this team does not know how to kick. Because 26.5, the most common number you're going to lose with is 27, which of course is 3 touchdowns, 3 extra points, as well as 2 field goals. However, Louisiana originally had a really good kicker, and then he got injured, and he's out for the year. And the backup kicker ended up performing against South Alabama in his season debut as the starter, and he went 0 for 2 on field goals and 2 for 3 on extra points. So he had a pretty disastrous day, and I do think that if Louisiana is going to rely on long field goals, the odds of him making them aren't that high. So you might see a couple of empty trips in field goal range, potentially 40-something yard drives that result in 0 points, or Louisiana realizes how bad the new kicker is and decides to go for it on some 4th downs relatively aggressively, which might result in some turnover on downs. But at the end of the day, I think App State should control the time of possession. I think App State should run the ball. This defense is very solid. And Louisiana offensively struggled to score 27 points against Nichols State. Scored 28. I mentioned the performances. This offense has really been underwhelming. And I think App State should probably limit Louisiana to 21 to 24 points. This will be a sweat. I'm not going to say that it's going to be easy, but I think at the end of the day, Louisiana will finish below this team total. So the play today, once again, here for Tuesday, October 12th, is going to be on Louisiana team total under 26.5 at minus 120 on DraftKings. Bye, everyone.